Alright, so I want to share my beautiful space station project. I just want to show my setup of the scene and some of the settings so you could guys see it a little bit better how I did it. The scene is very simple. It's just one bowl. It's just one ball or one sphere. And I extruded some parts, put some pipes there and here and some cylinders, more cylinders, then extruded in, all of that kind of stuff. All that good stuff. Now, the traffic, as you can see here, if I'm gonna go to C1, camera, aka camera 1, what did I press? I pressed the dash key and just press play. As you can see, I have some traffic going on left and right? How did I do the traffic? So I used that amazing plugin called Tyflow. It's actually free. This is a free version. This is the setup. So basically, I have no clue what I did here. No, I'm just kidding. So basically, I experimented with the birth shape. So the objects that I'm using, so shape is basically you're putting it in blocks. It's like almost think about it's like coding. There's one action after the other action, and if it touches something or if happens something, then the other action happens or whatever. It's kind of like something like that. Okay, and then obviously these nodes are rendering those guys out basically. So I'm just gonna minimize this. Obviously there are some tutorials on YouTube in regards to Tyflow. I'm not by any means an expert on Tyflow. It's just a very, very simple approach here. So I'm using the free version. You can buy the pro one if you love it. And those are the guys that I scattered. So these are let me just isolate these. So these are very low poly cars, flying cars. They have some LEDs on the sides just to make it a little bit more interesting. All right, so Tyflow, a little bit of space assets here. I did animate the C2. If I'm gonna go to C2, I did animate this guy. Boom, there you go. So that is my spaceship, so to say. So if I'm gonna double click this guy, zoom in a little bit, as you can see, you have some thrusters there, which is using a fall off effect. It works quite well. I'm just gonna delete that if I'm gonna pick it up. So as you can see, I'm using a Corona volume material using distance 1.5 meters. You have to really experiment with these settings, because if you're using a different unit system, it's just gonna be a little bit different, or it might be a little bit different depending how far is your camera, etc, etc. So basically I apply these on this geometry right there, and it actually worked really, really well. I'm gonna show you the end result at the end of the video. So this is the spaceship so basically I bought like a kit bash objects, and I just made this together basically, because all of these parts were separated. So I bought it as a set of objects, and I made this kind of like I don't know, looks like a spaceship jet fighter thing. I don't know, to be honest, what it is. But anyways, I customized it a little bit, put some LEDs here and on the bottom, adjusted some geometry a little bit, put some lights there. If you would like have controls inside, you barely can see that obviously in the shot. But anyways, also when it flies here, I made the camera kind of like wiggle a little bit, distorted, so it kind of, you get this effect. If I play it, it's like the camera just moves a little bit or distorts its own position, so to say. Now, in regards of the light, very simple. I have like a kind of like a sunlight. Well, it's not a sunlight, but it actually acts like a sun, right? And for the texture, I have just one texture, and it has some displacement on it. As you can see, it's just a bunch of panels with a little bit of light materials in it. And actually, with this approach, you can create big cities with loads of lights and flying cars. And you can actually create very big cities with this kind of approach. You can just create boxes, create different types of materials like this. You can buy loads of them on CG Trader, etc. Websites like that, probably on Turbo Squid as well. So it's basically panels. So you would actually create like a bunch of boxes with those textures, with different textures as well, with different lights, etc. Flying cars like those, very low poly, and you can just animate them in any way, maybe using Tyflow or P-Flow in 3ds Max if you want to. So yeah, very, very simple scene. I think for this guy, for the box, so this massive, sorry, this is not a box, this is actually a sphere. And as you can see, it's using a texture, and that texture is a spherical texture, as I remember, cannot recall it now. But basically it's a spherical texture. As you can see, it's using a spherical environment. It's nothing too crazy, it's just like literally, if I'm gonna go in, probably I'm not gonna see it because it's just gonna clip, right? Let's see. Okay, I'm not seeing here, not even there. Let me just go inside. One sec. So object properties, boom. Let me just do editable poly. So let me just apply editable poly, boom, boom, and just flip. Probably I need to flip the normals. So let's flip the normals inside. And if I'm gonna go inside, probably I'm gonna see it now. There we go. So this is roughly what I'm getting, as you can see. And it actually works really, really well. So a little bit about the frame buffer settings. As you can see, I'm using ACS full on because this is cinematic, and ACS does a really good job with cinematic look. I'm using a little bit of Filmic, as you can see here, a little bit of vignette, nothing too crazy. For ArcViz, I wouldn't recommend using ACS. I will explain that later on in other videos. And I'm using a little bit of bloom and glare, nothing too crazy. As you can see, obviously this is a raw render. And I did post-product a little bit more in After Effects, nothing too crazy. I was using Video Copilot, flares and glares on some of the parts, mapped them up, and I did get a nice result, to be honest. So in regards of the rendering settings, as you know, Corona doesn't have a lot of rendering settings, to be honest. It's quite simple. So I was using noise threshold to render the animation probably 8%. That was enough for me. I was denoising it like crazy because I didn't want to wait for long rendering times. And the resolution, as you can see, I'm kind of trying to replicate anamorphic lens look. So I'm going to full HD and then 800 pixels into the vertical. So, and you get something like this, obviously. But anyways, enough talking. Let's see that video.